Hello, and welcome to Jung at Harp, episode 179, Possibilities and Inner Resources. What is the relationship? I'm Deborah Henson-Conant, and I'm here today, as always, with Kathleen Wiley. We come together once a week-ish to take on a question, not with answers, but to take on a question. I'm a composer and a performer, and Kathleen is a Jungian psychoanalyst, and we both play the harp. You can see our harps in the background. And so we call this Jung at Harp. And each week we take on a question that we want to explore together, because we discovered very early in our relationship that we both have a love of conversation and what can come out of a conversation, and how two people speaking together can end up knowing more than either of them knew at the beginning of the conversation. So we also invite you to take part in this if you are at a place called a online, what's it called, Kathleen? The place where you watch this. Anyway, if you can comment, we should be able to see those comments, and we love to have you be part of this conversation. So today I was very interested because I had a thought this morning. I was hearing somebody talk about doing work that we love, and I thought, or I could love the work I do. Like I could find something to love in everything that I do. And I noticed that I will tend to be like, oh, well, I have to do this so that I can do that, instead of actually enjoying each part of what I do. So I mentioned this to Kathleen, and how I also talked to the members of Hip Harp Academy when we're just about to go into a feedback session, meaning when we're going to watch somebody's work, and that can trigger a lot of assessment mindset where we're not really experiencing what's there, but we're thinking, I liked it better the way she did it before. How come she did that? Or she's much better than me, or I'm much better than her, or like bleh, all of that stuff. And when people are stuck in that, they're having a hard time actually experiencing it or getting something out of it. And so I have a couple things that I ask people to do. And one of them is, if you're really stuck in that assessment mindset, find something to love. And I find that when I'm stuck in something like if I'm out running and I'm like, oh, it's hot and my legs hurt, blah, 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 blah. And then if I can notice that and say to myself, hey, find something to love, I can completely switch my engagement with what I'm doing from fighting with it to actually engaging with it. And then that opens up all kinds of possibilities for me. And you were saying amazing, brilliant things before we started. Do you remember what they were?
We'll see if they bubble back up from the
Right.
unconscious. You know, part of what, as you were saying that about finding something you love, is when we find something we love, we move towards it. The nature of love is to go towards something. And in fact, the esoteric tradition says that gravity is a form of love. It pulls things together. So that when we love something, we move towards it. You want to comment on gravity
Well,
being a
I'm
form
just
of love?
well, I love gravity, and I think about it a lot. I know it is the weak force, but it's so powerful and strong. And I know that without gravity, boom, like we're nowhere. And I know that everything has gravity. But the idea of feeling gravity as love, actually feeling the earth loving me through gravity, is just something I never thought of. So that's what happened in my brain when you said that.
Yeah. Well, you said something, things have gravity that unless we have a gravity about us, we can't locate ourselves. If we're going to talk about possibilities and inner resources, then we have to talk about locating ourselves. We have to talk about experiencing ourselves. And so love pulls us to experience ourselves. If I can love how my hair looks, even if find something to love about it, or love
Mm.
something about my music that I'm playing, or
Mm.
whatever it is, then it's going to pull me to be in connection with it. And otherwise, we start to disconnect from ourselves, which means we will never know our possibilities or find our inner resources.
Okay, so this is great because then it brings us back to the question that we had, which was possibility. In other words, experiencing
Mm-hmm.
life as possibility rather than no possibility,
Right.
and inner resources. And you were talking, so one of the things that started this was an argument, which I was really excited about because I love arguments because of what comes out in them, what you discover through them. And I had said something like, being empowered versus disempowered. And then you jumped in with something that was really interesting about, well, in the Jungian way, that we look at the opposite of that, and you started talking about compensation. It was really interesting. Do you think you can share that again? This Jungian idea.
Yeah, yeah. So, possibilities and inner resources, we got to, because we were talking about, can we always have an empowered mindset? Can we always be empowered? And I said, no, no, no. From a Jungian perspective, everything exists with its opposite. So moments of empowered are going to be followed by times of feeling disempowered. Or another way we might say it is a healthier way, is we're going to have moments of feeling our power, our inner resources, and our capacities. And then we're going to have other moments of feeling our powerlessness, which is the start of every 12-step program, admitting our
Right,
powerlessness.
right.
So we have to be able to make room for both. We are both powerful and we are both powerless in different ways. And until we recognize that whole, then we're constantly trying to pull up over something that's part of the reality, versus saying, okay, let's contextualize it. Let's get back to gravity. Let's really contextualize this and locate where I am and the environment. You
Yeah,
know,
I love, and it's interesting because I'm remembering that as I'm thinking as you're speaking about powerlessness and empowerment, and I'm remembering that one of the examples that you gave was something about, um, when and I don't know if you said it this way, but when I allow that I
Mhm.
am powerless over this app, knowing how this app works, I am then open to help.
Yeah, yeah,
And right, yeah, and so
yeah.
and now you
Go
go
ahead.
on. Yeah, no, you.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own technology frustration, and with my online embodiment circle, the platform is always changing and expanding, and it's like, okay, but I learned to use this, and that's working. Why is it changing and expanding? And sometimes I go there, and I'm like, okay, I just don't want to deal with this, and I throw my hands up, and I just walk away from it. But in truth, I'm a smart woman. I'm a capable woman. I'm an intelligent woman. I know how to Google. I know how to reach out to the support team. I know how to read the help article, but bottom line is, sometimes I don't want to. There's a part of me, I call it my inner baby. One of my analysts used to say we're all former baby than we like to admit. Sometimes my baby just wants to sit and scream and yell about it and kick my legs and not do anything, you know?
And
So,
I would say that sometimes that is not only the smartest, but it is the most effective. I mean, as someone who spent hours yesterday trying to figure out why suddenly I couldn't get onto my own website while I could get onto anything else on the web, realizing that my website had somehow become allergic to my computer, like not literally allergic, but
yeah.
and like it knew who I was. But so there, okay, let's not go there. But although, okay, here's what I want to say about that. Here's what I did spend hours dealing with that. I did spend hours on AI. I did spend hours working. And here's what I was aware of at the moment. I was like, I could just ignore this because I could keep doing my work without this. But what I had committed to doing is something I'm kind of scared to do. It
Uh-huh.
was like, it was another technical thing. It was making my first reaction video. And I was aware that it was much safer and more comfortable for me to engage in this, battle with blah, blah, AI, blah,
Right.
technology, than to actually have to face, and I don't even know if I like this language, but to actually engage with my sense that I'm not good at something, I'm going to look stupid, and maybe I'm doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So, just out of curiosity, what does that all have to do with possibilities and inner resources and what the relationship is?
Well, my analytic mind said, okay, there we've got the 2-year-old. We've got the 2-year-old. The 2-year-old who, because they don't know how to do it, just gets frustrated and throws all the toys down because they don't want to not know how to do it. Um, but I think that we have to be able to breathe through those states in order to access the possibilities and inner resources. And I also think your awareness yesterday, ultimately, you realized that your angst was really not about technology. Although I'm not saying you don't have angst about technology, but
Yeah.
the underlying angst that was really driving what was happening in the moment was about making the reaction video.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to always be willing to be honest with ourselves and confront ourselves. And I don't mean confront in a hostile way, but con meaning with, front
Mm-hmm.
meaning face. We have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to face ourselves. We have to be able to face ourselves and say, okay, yeah, this was my baby not wanting that. And in truth, I don't have to figure that out right now. I can go on and do this other thing. Or, okay, here's my 2-year-old feeling ashamed. And you know what? I'm not two. I'm a grown woman. I'm capable. I've made lots of videos. I can do this. And
Okay.
going on
No,
and doing
no, I'm not. I'm a big baby. I'm not a grown woman.
it. Well, we all have a big baby in us. And the thing about it is when we can lovingly and playfully acknowledge those emotional states that kick in, because they are always emotionally charged physiological states, then it allows us to move through them instead of getting stuck in them and avoiding possibilities and resources.
Okay, do we always have to be to lovingly go through it? And I keep seeing this thing that I watched yesterday in a moment of, like I'm going to watch anything on HBO, and it was like I love my chimp. It was something about people who own chimpanzees. And but the thing that I remember was, well, there was a lot of disturbing stuff in it. But there was one where a chimpanzee was watching 2001: A Space Odyssey or something like that. I don't really. Sorry. I didn't. I, this actually happened. So anyway, this chimpanzee was watching this thing where a person dressed up in a chimpanzee suit or something like that was hitting rocks or something, and the chimp was just freaking out. Meanwhile, its owner was holding on. It's not even funny. It anyway. In the point is, I really identified with that chimp, and I identified with um just like, yeah, with the drama and the physicality. Whoa, 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 no, 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 never. And I just realized something. I mean, wow. Okay, sorry, I'm off on a thing here. I just realized we're working on, in the Legacy Project team, we're working on a piece of mine that I wrote years ago that's called Persephone Lost, and it's an operatic song cycle. And in the middle of it, it's about Persephone's mother, Demeter. And Persephone was stolen down into the underworld. And at a certain point, Demeter realizes her child is down there. She cannot reach her child. And she just freaks out. And operatically, it's like, um, you know, come darkness. Sure, if you've taken my child, come darkness, come rain, come. And it's just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, there's something so, it's like a personal thunderstorm, you know? So I love that. Like, I do love being a big baby.
Well, What happens on in the myth, of course, is Demeter then begins to grieve and the earth becomes barren. And it
Correct.
stays barren for so long, people
Yep.
start to die, everything starts to die. And the gods of Mount Olympus say this cannot happen. And so then they begin to enlist and negotiate with Hades to get Persephone out. And of course, we know she eats the pomegranate on the way out, so she has to return for 6 months out of the year. And it's tied to the seasons.
Don't eat.
But I mean, I think
And
that,
thus was born anorexia. Sorry.
well, I mean, I think that there are times that if we want to call it righteous indignation, righteous anger, I mean, we could go into when is it that that kind of outrage is actually the appropriate, or let's see, appropriate's not the best choice of words there, but it is the needed compensation of the other side. The underworld deadness, this explosive, very alive rage and grief. There's the compensation in psyche. And of course, from a Jungian perspective, all those characters are a part of our psyche. This is an inner drama that's going on between parts of ourself. So I think that every response has its, I say rightful place. We could say aligned place, harmonious place. It's when we get stuck in one and identified in one that we then disconnect from our other inner resources and possibilities. Because again, if we take the Demeter and Persephone Hades myth for a minute, we've got these various characters in our psyche that all have to have their place. They all have a part in the story, and they all are representative of lived experience.
I see of our okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up Victoria into the conversation. Yes. She's saying knowing that we can be powerful and also be powerless is helpful. It reminds me that being powerless does not have to be a forever thing. It's interesting going back to this myth that after she goes to Helios and she goes trying to find somebody. She goes for help finally to at least in the version that I created. She goes to Helios and to find someone who has seen this, and finally Helios is able to say, yes, I saw your daughter I've seen all of this. I saw as this rising thunder came up and took your daughter down to hell. And then, at least in my version, she's able to say, so I have wronged you, my earth. It is not you who have stolen my child. I mean, your silence, I took to mean that you, anyway. So what I'm hearing for myself, and this is not what this was about, this drama of powerlessness and power, as we're talking about it, which was not what we meant to talk about today, but I am seeing my childhood, the drama of powerlessness and power, and I'm seeing my fascination with it and how much I wanted to put it into music, how much I love, like I'm thinking about, one of the pieces that I really loved that I wrote was called A Catcher in the Rye, and which included a timpani solo in which I got to engage with the timpani, and just the power of that was so beautiful. So I feel like I'm kind of pulling us off somewhere, but that's what the conversation is about, is so.
I think part of the beauty of conversation is we get to circumambulate, and so we get to go on this little side trip, then we come back, and I just want to say for our viewers, because we do this live and it's a conversation, we never know what's going to come up. So neither one of us have gone and researched all the various versions of the myth we're talking about. So I just want to acknowledge I might be mixing up the Greek and Roman names. Sometimes I just don't know. But anyway, so I just want to acknowledge that we're each kind of bringing what's up for us this moment in the myth. But I think the Catcher and the Rye piece is so full of dramatic power. And I experience it every time I listen to it as kind of this increasing, rising. It there's a peak of it to me, and like something really, it's like the volcano explodes and then it starts to spew the lava. Those are very different kinds of power. Okay, the spewing of the lava is one kind of power, and then that lava running down that's so hot and melting and destroying things is another. So I think that if we can remember, and what Victoria said in terms of remember, nothing is static. So we have moments of feeling powerful and we have moments of feeling powerless, and they're not static. It's fluid. Where we lose access to possibilities and our inner capacities and resources is when we get stuck in a one-sidedness. And from a Jungian perspective, the principle of compensation is always at work. So if we only hold on to the powerful belief, that sense of feeling powerful, that feeling of powerlessness is going to get bigger, bigger, and bigger until it explodes, because it wants its rightful place too. It wants in consciousness too. So if we can stay fluid and move through it and know it's all a part of the flow, that then means we can begin to experience the inner resources and possibilities even in our powerlessness, which again we can go back to the 12 steps.
Yeah, I'm also, just as you're speaking, I want to bring up Monica and Victoria again. But as you were speaking, I was thinking about these two pieces, and I was thinking about how really in both cases they are about love. I mean, in both cases, it's like, the catcher in the rye is, I'm your catcher in the rye. I'll catch you when you fly, to really that partnership. And then in Persephone Lost, so in Catcher in the Rye, it's about I'm here to catch you so that you can fly. And in Persephone Lost, it's just the heartache of a mother not being able to connect with her child, not being able to protect her child. And for me, there really is so much power and drama. And I just, as you were speaking, I was also thinking, I remember when I first started playing the harp, thinking, kind of, thank God, at least I can't beat this instrument up. At least, meaning, like, I can put as much energy into it as possible, and it is not going to overwhelm anybody, and nobody's going to say, hey, shut up over there on the harp. Like, that was at the time when, like, the greatest compliment was, hey, harp down, would be like, I made it. But of course, like, the harp was like a gate for me. It was a limiter of me not being overwhelming. And I appreciated that about it. But of course, eventually, with electricity and the advent of the DHC harp, and I was able to be as loud as I want. And I'm just realizing that and I don't know what I'm realizing, but I'm realizing that there's something about engaging with music in a larger, louder way is an important part of my self-expression that comes out of both powerlessness and power through self-expression. And now I will pull up what Monica, and I haven't read this, acknowledging being powerless can be a relief for me as long as I don't use it to avoid a challenge, right, that I had better confront. Right. So it opens up inner resources, right?
Well, it opens up inner resources. And, I'm aware we've not defined power as we're talking about it. And in this moment, I'm going to sidestep that myself to say there's a difference between being powerless and being helpless. So I may be powerless over the ability to change an app or change how my computer works, but I am not helpless in how I take that challenge on to learn how to use it. So I think there's often a mix up in our felt sense that powerless equates to helpless. And for the infant child, that is true. The infant child basically is helpless in terms of moving of their own accord. They can scream, they can cry, they can kick to get someone's attention to respond to their needs. But as far as moving towards it, they are not only powerless, they are helpless. Or maybe we could even make the argument they're helpless but not powerless, because there's a lot of power that a screaming baby has. So I think what Monica is saying is absolutely right, is that we have to differentiate that being powerless over something doesn't mean a lack of capacity or a lack of inner resources or a lack of possibilities of how we might move forward.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. And I'm also hearing that coming from we talked about 12 step, it is actually the access point for help.
Right.
Being powerless is the access. Oh my goodness. And I'm just thinking about the golden cage. I mean, I'm thinking about the stories I tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like the golden cage is, I mean, the sort of quintessential story I created for myself about, being stuck and yet having the resource of humanity and other. Wow. Okay. So let's pull up Victoria and see. My mentor said every behavior makes sense, even temper tantrums or stomping in anger. Thank you, Victoria, because I love temper tantrums and stomping in anger. And not only do I love doing them, I love seeing people do them. I love it. If we can harness our feelings and listen to their messages, we can transform them. If we can harness our feelings. Now, you're nodding and saying yes, Kathleen, so please.
Yeah, I might say it a little bit differently with the somatics, but, our emotions are psychic energy. Our feelings are psychic energy. So if I'm having a temper tantrum and expressing anger, then the anger is psychic energy. And if I can begin to realize that all psychic energy in and of itself is neutral, is neither good nor bad, it just is, then I can begin to connect with that psychic energy in a way that it fuels me to move in the direction that I want to. And so when Victoria says, if we can harness our feelings and listen, we can transform them. By listening, by engaging with our felt sense, our body sensation and emotion, we can begin to connect and have that energy to channel in a certain direction. And consciousness changes things. I mean, I believe it's the Heisenberg principle in science. The observer changes the phenomena. So as we begin to consciously observe and be present to our emotional states, then something changes.
Does it change the context? Is that what that just occurred to me, that it changes the context? Anyway,
I guess
we're
it
not going to.
depends on what we mean by context. It changes one's relationship to what's happening. So that's the context, part of the context. Does it change the context in the sense of other variables and realities? Probably not. But it does change the context in terms of one's relationship to it.
I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but this is really opening up a thought about power, and also, my instrument and the power, and the fact that the instrument has never been known for power, and also the fact that there is a technique that I keep going back to, and I keep exploring over and over and over again to see what else is there, and that's the technique of the strum. And it was interesting because in playing the pedal harp, I was able to have those strums and hitting the soundboard. And now that I have an instrument where that is not possible, I've been exploring it in different ways. And I just realized there's this piece that I've been working on called Veracruz. I mean, that's sort of the melody that goes along with it. But then it opens it up to a section in which there's just like. And I'm not strong enough yet to actually do it the way I imagine it. But I'm realizing, and so part of me was like, well, yeah, you don't have to have that in the piece. You can have but as we're speaking, I'm like, I want to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to, have that. And so, I don't know what that has to do with inner resources, but that's part of what this conversation is inspiring me to actually spend time on that section and see
Mm-hmm.
how I can actually experience physically what it is that is for me.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, I mean, I support you in that because you're connecting the dots. You're connecting that inner urge, that inner, the energy. You're wanting to connect it and express it in the outside world in a way that the sound and the touch, the felt sense, your body movement, it's all congruent. It's all in
Right.
alignment. You know, um, and I do think we have the greatest possibilities
Mhm.
when we live in the truest, most complete alignment with our inner resources as we possibly can in a given moment in time.
Okay, so let's go back. Oh, I don't know what time it is. Okay, we still have a couple minutes. Let's go back to those inner resources.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are they? I mean, okay, so I mean, this instrument has been an incredible resource for me. It has become almost like a partner in development of
Mm-hmm.
my voice. Even though I have a whole other, vocabulary of musical theater that's really important to me. But this is the instrument that allowed me to physicalize that, to
Mm-hmm.
physicalize it. Um, and as this conversation continues, I'm thinking, wow, I probably have not even begun to touch the inner resources that this instrument has and that I have, and that
Mm-hmm.
I'm discovering through my relationship with the instrument,
Mm-hmm.
and that other people are discovering about the instrument through its relationship with me.
Mm-hmm.
So so I'd say my last question is, okay, um, possibility and inner resources. Inner resources, how might we in this next week? I mean, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to explore this instrument and this piece, and think about inner resources of both the instrument and myself. I know that I can meditate.
Mm-hmm.
What's one more thing I can do or avoid doing?
uh, breathe into your body and name what it is that you're feeling at any given moment in time. Yeah, yeah.
That's hard.
I mean, this is part of why I started the embodiment circle, because this most fundamental of things we struggle to do, to even know what's happening inside of us, because there's so much static so often, and so much that's coming in from the outside world we've internalized historical. But the greatest resource we have is the self we are. And the self we are begins in our body. I mean, that Freud said that, ego starts with the body. So, to be in touch with what is the felt sense of the body, the emotion, the body sensations, the breathing. What's their breathing? What's your skin temperature? What's your heart rate doing? What's the tightness of your muscles or the relaxations of your muscles? That by naming that, we begin to be in relationship to ourself. And that's the greatest resource. Yeah.
Victoria's saying, name it, tame it, own it. And I love that, but I'm thinking, untame it. Yeah. um,
Well, and there's a place for that. I mean, again, let's
yeah.
let's not we don't want to get
Yeah.
one-sided here.
Right.
But I think
Right.
if we live in that untamed place, then whatever has the greatest energy in the moment takes over, and everything else has to recede into the background. And so to live that way, one's living a pretty dramatic life, and that has its downside when it comes to personal relationships and health and
I think it's really interesting. So I'm loving just reading, like, name it, tame it, own it. to think about, okay, so what's the, what does that mean? What does tame it mean? What is it? What's the opposite of it? What's own it? And what's release its ownership to itself? What's in here that could open up a resource? Like even in things, whatever, like even if something I were to disagree with, or that's what I loved about earlier when I said something, this was off the air, and you were like, well, I disagree with that. And I was like, oh boy, okay, now we're going to get some good stuff here. Is that it opens up, that itself opens up possibility.
Yeah, because we each bring a side, we each bring an angle. If we look at life as the facets of the diamond, you're seeing from one facet and I'm offering another facet. And so we get a more complete picture. And it's true like that with ourselves.
Well, and I'm also seeing that I don't have to agree with it to get the power of it or to get the resource that it offers. So
that's right.
So what did you just say? Because I wasn't listening.
What did I just say? What did I just say?
You weren't listening either.
I was listening, but I don't remember what I said last 5 minutes.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Victoria and Monica and everybody else who listens and comments and lets us know that having this conversation with you is meaningful to you. And it's certainly meaningful to me. It's going to make a big difference for me in the coming week, Kathleen. It's unlocked something for me. And it's a kind of unlocked a permission and an awareness that I didn't have before the conversation. So thank you so much to you and to everything that everyone said, because that was part of that unlocking for me.
Yes. Yeah.
So we are here next week or not next week?
No, next week we'll be on break.
Okay. For 1 week or 2 weeks on break?
1 week.
Okay. And then we will be back for more conversations. But we are releasing at least one of our old conversations on the podcast, your favorite podcast thingy, what's it, whatever it's called. What is it called? Channel, podcast thingy, what's it? Platform, right. So we are releasing at least one a week of our old ones. So go back and take a look at those and comment and share with your friends. And we will look forward to seeing you live in 2 weeks.
Visit jungatharp.com for show notes, contact links, and to follow the ongoing conversation. That's Jung, as in Carl Jung, the famous psychoanalyst, and harp, as in the many-stringed instrument.